Welcome to the show, Storm. How are you doing?
Wonderful. Thanks for having me on your show, Toby.
Thank you so much for joining me today on this episode of Mirror Talk. I'm really excited to speak with you. But before we, talk about your wonderful works and everything that we would love to talk about in this episode, can you tell me a little bit more about yourself and your important work that you do for, revitalization and everything?
I mostly, for the last 20 years, have been a speaker and a workshop leader. I've been educating people about restoration and revitalization. And I started Reconomics Institute around the same time COVID started hitting, which was very good timing because all of a sudden nobody was having conferences anymore.
Mm,
So they didn't need me as a speaker. So I put everything online at reconomics.org so that people who are interested in restoring the planet for a living or who are interested in helping communities revitalize for a living can get certified as a revitalization and resilience facilitator.
mm,
And they can do it either as a full-time job or as a way to enhance their current career.
mm. Wow, that's awesome. That's really good. So I was actually going through your website earlier, and I was saying like there's some podcasts available, for example, and you're also an author. You have three books that you've written,
Yep.
which are also available on Amazon and other platforms where one could buy them to read. You have Reconomics, that's the pathway to resilient prosperity, rewealth, and the restoration economy. So
Yep.
can you tell me about these books and what readers are expected to learn from them?
Well, the first book, The Restoration Economy, I started writing in 1996. And this is back in a time when most of these restoration industries and trends were just getting started. Some of them are old ones. I mean, obviously, humanity has been restoring old buildings, reusing old infrastructure for a long time.
Mm,
But it was in the 1990s that all of these things really started to explode, and that entirely new disciplines like ecological restoration were emerging, and brownfields remediation, cleaning up old contaminated industrial sites. Those are brand new industries that didn't exist 50 years ago. And so the restoration economy broke it down into 8 sectors, four that were restoring the natural environment and four that were restoring the built environment,
mm,
and documented that you've got about $2 trillion a year of all this restorative activity happening. Then the second book, Rewealth, came out from McGraw-Hill in 2008. And you could kind of think of the first book as being the ingredients of revitalization, all
mm,
the different kinds of activities and projects that you can do that'll bring a place back to life. Whereas the second one was more about the recipe for revitalization. How do you put all those ingredients together to
mm,
get what people really want, which is higher quality of life and more jobs, more income, growing economy. And then the new book, Reconomics, that just came out last year, is more about the process that leaders need to use in order to reliably produce revitalization and resilience. In the old days, people would sometimes get revitalization and resilience, but it was often more a matter of luck.
mm.
And so the new book is more about how to almost guarantee success.
Ah, economic success. Yeah, yeah. Oh, that's great. So, earlier you're making mention of, yeah, revitalization, like changing of, buildings of old infrastructures, for example. Can you share some of the, most inspiring or dramatic stories of places, coming back to life, being renewed or being,
Mhm. Yeah, there are many of them. The Some of them, like the restoration of coral reefs is what inspired me to get into this in the first place.
mm,
When I actually saw that people were inventing technologies that were bringing coral reefs that had been totally destroyed back
mm,
to life in, just a year or so, when it had taken 10,000 years for the coral reef to grow.
yeah,
That's when I started realizing that we don't have to be satisfied with just sustaining the world, with just reducing the amount of damage we do. That's good, but even better is undoing the damage that's already been done.
mm,
So that's when I started getting involved in writing the books, and as a result of writing the books, I had to look around for more examples of revitalization and restoration happening. And once I started really looking for it, I realized we're surrounded by it everywhere we look. We're surrounded by regenerative agriculture, by restored watersheds, by reused and decontaminated industrial lands, by restored historic buildings and renewed infrastructure,
Mm.
war and natural disaster reconstruction, all of these things, fishery restoration, which is huge because fisheries are about 10% of the entire world economy.
Mm.
So, everywhere I looked, I saw this. But the most inspiring stories to me are really when I see human communities that were in really desperate condition where people didn't know how to work together,
Mm.
all of a sudden coming together, rich and poor, black and white, it just everybody working together to revitalize the place they live in. And the first example of that I saw was Chattanooga, Tennessee, which went from probably the most desperate city in the United States, one that was at death's door, to becoming a model of revitalization.
Mm. Wow, wow, that's so inspiring. That's so great. And what can I do as a person, or what should I study if I want to, help restore our planet for a living? What can I do as a person personally, or what should I study?
Well, it depends on whether you want to do it as a volunteer, stay with your current job or profession, but spend some of your spare time helping your community revitalize or helping restore natural resources, or whether you want to actually make that your profession.
Mm.
And if you're going to make it your profession, you can either focus on the tactics or the strategy. So you can be the expert, the technical expert that knows how to do specific projects, like restoring an urban stream to health, or restoring a historic building or decontaminating land. Those are what I consider tactics,
Mm.
the things that the actual projects that you do. Or you can focus more on the big picture stuff, how to put together an ongoing program for a community, a strategic process that brings together all of those different tactics, all of the natural and the built and the socioeconomic environment,
Mm.
and turns it into revitalization and resilience. So if you're going to do the latter, the big picture strategic stuff, then the best place to start would be to get certified as a revitalization and resilience facilitator
Mm.
at reconomics.org. And that's only, the tuition's only $299. And that you can add that to a current profession, or you can make that your whole new profession, in which case you'll be the person in the room who knows how to increase the success rate
Mm.
of places attempts to become more resilient or more revitalized.
Yes, that's awesome. So I'm going to place the link to your website in the show notes for this episode. So anyone who's interested, in taking a course or getting some knowledge about this, could just click on the link or copy the link and get
Mhm.
across to you to work with you in that regard. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. If they go to stormcunningham.com, that's my public speaking site. And
Mm.
that site has links to all my other books and organizations.
Okay, that's even much better. I'll just place the link. That's one, stormcommunion.com in the link
Yep.
in the show notes. Then everyone could just copy that instead or use
Yep.
that instead. That's great. But a while back I was having a discussion with a friend of mine, and he was telling me about, he was asking me like, is there even hope, for this planet? Like, why do we have to do the old revitalization? Why do we have to do the old sustainability, practices that we're doing, since the world is going to end, or the planet is going to be destroyed very soon? What are we doing it for? Are we just um postponing the time of the destruction, or what are we doing actually? So can you help me um throw in some light in this to this question? Like,
Yeah.
are we doing
Well,
something? Sorry.
yeah, there's a big difference between, like I mentioned before, the sustainability and the restoration.
Mhm.
If all you're doing is the sustainability stuff, which is reducing the new damage to the world, then you can get very depressed,
Mm.
because we can't have a brighter future if all we're doing is damaging the planet at a slower rate.
Mhm.
That's just delaying the inevitable collapse.
Yeah, yeah.
But if we're actually reversing
Mhm.
If each year that goes by, the planet is actually healthier and more vibrant than
Mhm.
it was the year before, then obviously we have a brighter future ahead of us. So we have to get out of this old sustainable development mindset, which
Mhm.
has basically failed us for 40 years, because the world is in much worse shape now, especially climate wise, than it was 40 years ago.
Mhm.
And we need to start uh, undoing the damage of the past 300 years. And the good news is that you can make just as much money restoring the world as you are destroying it.
So you mean there's hope, and yeah, there's hope for us to restore the world or the planet Earth to to its former glory.
Yeah, yeah, because it can't be done by volunteers.
Mhm.
Corporations and individuals need to be earning their living restoring the world.
Yes, yes, yes. And it's so attractive because you said it's profitable too. So that makes it attractive to the industries also.
Yep.
Yeah. So with this condition that we are in right now, with the pandemic, the COVID-19 pandemic, I would love to get a little bit of advice from you as an expert in economics. What are the best ways to help a community economically recover from the COVID-19 calamities?
The most important thing is they have to get out of this mode of just relying on individual projects.
Mm,
And they have to realize that revitalization is an ongoing process. It's not something you just do when you're in trouble.
mm,
That just like our human bodies are constantly regenerating. The only way we can maintain health is by constantly replacing and revitalizing and regenerating all the cells in our body.
mm,
And it's the same with communities. If a community isn't revitalizing, it's devitalizing.
mm,
There's no such thing as healthy stasis.
mm,
So revitalization has to be ongoing. So the most important thing a community can do is to create an ongoing program and a process for revitalization.
mm.
Because everybody who produces anything in the world, whether they're a farmer or a manufacturer, they know that to produce something, you need a process.
Yeah.
The trouble is that most communities that want to produce revitalization or resilience don't have a process.
Mm.
So the best thing if somebody could do who wants to help out would be to read Reconomics, and that describes the process that a community needs to have in order to successfully revitalize.
Yeah. Okay. So everyone should pick up the book, a copy of economics, and find out how to do this, how to
Yeah, that's
get.
a good idea.
Yeah, yeah. That's and it's awesome that it's available on Amazon and other platforms where
Yep.
one could easily buy it from.
Yep.
Yes. So,
Yep.
so earlier we talked about sustainability, and we talked about revitalizing the planet. Um, how can we do that? How can we, as an individual, as someone who is listening at home or on the way to work right now, what can an individual do personally to revitalize or sustain our climate conditions right now?
Well, one of the most important things is to tell the stories of places that are already doing it.
Mm,
To read about it, to research this and look into places that are similar to where you live that have already done this,
mm,
and then tell that story. Tell how places like Chattanooga, Tennessee, came from a point of being the most desperate city in the United States to being one of the most revitalized cities.
mm,
Look around for places that are like yours that have gone through the revitalization process and become a storyteller. You
mm.
know, tell the stories that you see of people who are restoring the planet for a living.
Yes, but I did like some daily practices I could do. Maybe avoid using plastic plates, or avoid doing this, or avoid doing that, in order to ensure that the oceans are not no longer flooded with refuses or something. Or I did like some simple things I could also do to contribute to
Well,
this.
I mean, cutting down on waste and, energy waste or product waste or plastic, those are all good things and necessary,
Mm,
but they're not really restoration. All you're really doing is slowing down the rate at which you're destroying the world.
mm,
Um, Restoration is something different. Restoration would be going out into the ocean and collecting all the plastic that's already there and turning that into pavement, for instance, which is what's happening now. So, stopping plastic from going into the ocean is absolutely necessary,
Mhm.
but it's not restoration.
Mm.
Going into the ocean and taking out the plastic, that's
Mm.
restoration.
Mm. And what I understand now is that we need to carry out the work of restoration
Yeah.
also. Is very important. That's what I've just learned from that right now. Okay. So from your expertise also in economics too, if a community or I personally wants to start a business, are there like some economic growth strategies that you could give me or walk me through in order to have a successful business?
Well, strategy is something that people use the word a lot, but a lot of people don't really understand what a strategy is.
Mm,
They get it confused with a plan, or they get it confused with a vision.
mm,
Um, the strategy is usually something very brief. It's very simple because it has to guide your decision making. So it's not a plan, it's not a book, it's not something you have to pull off a bookshelf.
mm,
It's usually just a few sentences,
mm,
sometimes just 3 words,
mm,
that help you overcome the barriers to achieving what you want to achieve.
mm,
And the most common strategy I've seen that succeeds in virtually any place on the planet is just 3 words: repurpose, renew, reconnect.
mm,
And the reason that 3 word strategy works almost everywhere is that virtually every community is full of old assets, buildings, infrastructure, damaged properties, things like that, that are derelict. They're not productive or they're not beautiful. They need to be repurposed
mm,
so that find a viable new purpose for them. And then once you do that, you can raise the money you need to renew them.
mm,
So repurposing has to come first. How should we reuse this old property?
mm,
You find the purpose. That way you can raise the money to renew it. And then the third aspect is reconnecting, because most of our communities have been damaged by bad planning for a long time. They're disrupted by urban highways. They're disrupted by single use zoning. They're
mm,
disrupted by all kinds of barriers that keep neighborhoods or keep ecosystems from being connected with each other. So we
yeah.
need to reconnect all these places to really bring them back to life. So repurpose, renew, reconnect. That's a strategy that will revitalize almost any place.
Yes, repurpose, renew, reconnect. That's
Yeah.
awesome. That's great. Well, Elia, thanks for clarifying that earlier. But can you tell me now the difference between a vision, a strategy, and a plan? Like earlier you said a strategy is just like three sentences, for example. And
Yeah. So a vision is a cohesive set of goals. So you find out, you describe all the things that you want, and
mm,
then you describe them in a vision that kind of makes them all fit together.
mm,
So that's your vision. That's what you want to achieve. And the vision will mostly be composed of nouns and adjectives. You're describing things and the condition of things. Now, the strategy is mostly verbs. These are the actions you need to take in order to make that vision become reality. So a vision by itself can't achieve anything.
mm,
It's nice, but it's just a daydream if you don't have a strategy to
mm,
make it happen. Now, a plan, interestingly enough, almost all communities have plans, but what I found is that plans often get in the way of revitalization. Now, planning itself is good, but plans are actually very dangerous, because a plan is solidified thinking. As soon as you've written the plan, it's dead. It's no longer changing.
mm,
Every day that goes by, that plan is more obsolete. So, and the trouble is that too many citizens think that because they have a plan, they're going to revitalize, when in actual fact, the plan does nothing. It's just a document.
mm,
And in most cases, most plans are never implemented. The city leaders seem to think that just having a plan is enough, that somehow a plan is the objective. And so nothing happens. And then 5 or 10 years later, they update their plan. So cities are trapped in what I call perpetual planning syndrome, where they're always planning, but they never actually do anything.
mm. And how can one come out of this syndrome? How can one you know make plans that are valid or important for the time, and how can one ensure that one implements these plans or act on them?
Probably the best thing to do is forget about the plans.
Mm,
Just don't write plans. planning is good, but the
Okay.
plans are dangerous. So just focus on process, because process is what produces results. Plans don't produce results.
Mm,
Plans are a result.
mm,
It's a document that results from a bunch of planners being paid to write something,
yeah.
but it doesn't do anything. A
Mm,
process is what produces things. A process is what turns peanuts into peanut butter,
mm,
and what turns iron into automobiles. So if you want to create revitalization and resilience, you have to have a process. And there are 6 steps to the process. You got to have an ongoing program, a vision, a strategy. You got to have policies that support your vision and strategy. You got to have partnerships to bring together your resources, and you have got to have projects that actually do things. And the secret sauce, the magic that makes this produce revitalization and resilience,
mm,
is that each of those 6 things needs to be regenerative in nature.
mm. They have to. Why do? I'm sorry. Why do they have to be regenerative in nature? Why?
Well, because everything, uh, health is based on regeneration. Resilience is based on regeneration. Revitalization is based on regeneration.
Mm,
You're constantly having to renew the elements of your community or the elements of your body in
yeah.
order to have health and vibrance, in order to overcome maladies and sickness and economic decline. And all of that is
Mm,
dependent on regeneration.
yeah. Oh, okay. So that's why regeneration is very important. Like to in order to
It's
stay
the it's
valid.
the essence. It's the essence of life.
Mm,
The
yeah.
whole world is regenerating,
Yeah.
and the parts that aren't regenerating are the parts that are sick.
Mm, wow. Wow. I like that. That's one lesson or one thing I'm taking from this episode actually. Regeneration. Everything I do has to involve regeneration because it
Yep.
is the essence of life. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Oh, great. So also back to economics again, and the whole um pandemic or the way the situation of the planet is right now. How can we grow our local economy in a way that benefits low income minorities and also help to heal the past injustice that has happened or is still happening?
Uh, well, the key element of the process for making sure that your economic growth is inclusive
Mm,
of all the stakeholders and all the citizens is in the vision. Now, the public doesn't have to be involved in every aspect of the process. They
mm,
don't have to be involved in the projects at the end. They
mm,
don't have to be involved in the policies.
mm,
The key is get all of your stakeholders, all of your people involved in creating that shared vision.
mm,
And if they do that, the vision drives everything else.
mm,
The vision is what the strategy is implementing. The
yeah,
vision is what drives the policy changes. The
mm,
vision is what drives the partnerships that come together and the
mm,
projects that come from the partnerships. So if you get everybody into the vision, then everything else that follows after the vision will be inclusive.
yeah, yeah, yeah. That's true. And can we truly heal from from the past injustice? Is it possible to truly heal from it?
Um, yeah, well, everything that's involved in regenerating a place pretty much starts with RE. Um, so you've got things like restorative justice and reparations,
Mm,
where for a community or a society to heal,
mm,
number one, it has to become honest
mm,
about what has happened in the past.
mm,
If they don't have the courage to be honest about past injustices,
mm.
then they're probably never really going to fully heal. So
Yeah.
it has to start with awareness first, and then honesty to accept what they're now aware of,
Mm,
and uh, and then once that's done, you can
mm,
start the process. Sometimes reparations are needed, like here in this country. Uh, many African American farmers had their land stolen from them.
mm,
So now in this new Biden administration,
mm,
under the U.S. Department of Agriculture, there's a whole new program funded with billions of dollars to start returning those farmlands to the Black farmers.
yeah. Yeah.
And that'll help revitalize rural communities.
Mm. So that's like a plan to maybe compensate for what has been done in the past.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
But the best thing to do is not just reparations by themselves, but
Mm,
make reparations a part of an overall revitalization process.
mm.
That way everybody benefits from it.
Yes. But what could cause, most of these community revitalization or resilience initiatives to fail? What causes that?
Most common is the lack of a strategy, because the only purpose of a strategy is is to produce success.
Mm,
So if you don't have a strategy, your chances of succeeding are, are very little.
yeah.
And that's the easiest question to ask. You know, when somebody claims that they're going to produce revitalization or resilience, ask them what their strategy is.
Mm,
In most cases, what they'll tell you is, "Oh, I've got a plan." You know,
yes.
no, plan is not a strategy. They say, "Oh, yeah, well, here's our vision." No, a vision is not a strategy. What's your strategy? You know,
Earlier you said, you talked about, the strategy of, repurpose, renew, and reconnect. We talked about that earlier. But I did like some general ways of making strategies that are very effective. Like now I want to start something, I want to start an initiative, for example. How can I go about creating an effective strategy for it?
well, the first thing you have to do is be really clear about what you're trying to achieve. So the
Mm,
vision has to come first.
vision.
And a vision isn't just a matter of gathering a bunch of people together so they can daydream about what a nice future community might look like. A
Mm,
vision needs to be based on data, it needs to be based on research. You need to really learn what's ailing your community, what are the obstacles to achieving what you want to achieve, what caused these problems in the first place.
mm.
So it's a learning process. So you need to really learn what's going on in your community before you can come up with an effective vision for what a better community in the future would look like. And then once you've got that, a strategy will become pretty obvious.
Mm. So I have to get my visions clear, like know exactly what I want to do, what I want to achieve.
Yep.
Then yeah, that way the strategy comes into play. Yes. So are there ways, you are the executive director of the Economics Institute. Are there ways your institute helps to, teach how to set clear visions or strategies, or what do you do, and what does the institute offer?
Well, that's the only thing we do. It's yeah. The only purpose of Reconomics Institute is to get people certified as revitalization and resilience facilitators, and that means that they know how to create a what we call the Reconomics process,
Hmm,
the basic process that brings places back to life.
yes. Yes. Oh, great, great. And okay, so if for example, I want to start like a business, for example, or in a community, you want to, revitalize the community, and we need money, we need funding, we need, to create an industry or an organization to do this. How can we get, stakeholders to participate in, to take part in this, and also how can we manage the whole, stakeholders that are going to take part in the organization?
Yeah, well, managing it means creating an ongoing program. That's the very first part of this process. Before
Mm,
you even create the vision, you need to create an ongoing program. And that's usually housed in a local foundation or nonprofit organization, any institution that's trusted by the community.
mm,
So once you've got that ongoing program, um, the goal, if your community has no money to work with, you can't just dive into doing projects.
mm,
Um, you can still do the things that don't require money. Visioning doesn't require money. Creating a strategy doesn't require money.
mm,
Updating your policies to support your strategy and your vision doesn't require money. So
mm,
there's a lot you can do that doesn't require money. The uh, the most important thing for attracting investors and money to your community is increasing people's confidence in its future.
mm,
So when people lose confidence in a community, when they think that 10 years from now, the community is going to be in worse shape than it is now,
mm,
then they're going to leave. They're going to find a better place to live. And the employers are going to leave and the investors are going to leave.
mm,
But if you put together a revitalization program, an ongoing program with this complete process that I'm talking about, people will look at that and say, wow, they've got this in place. This place is almost guaranteed to be better next year than it is this year, and
yeah,
better 5 years from now than it is then.
yeah,
They're going to start, because you've got an ongoing program, you're going to have a constant flow of improvements.
mm,
And the more they see things that have been successfully accomplished. Oh, you've got a vision now. You've got a strategy. Oh,
Mm,
you've done this really nice project to renovate the public park. You've done this, you've done that. And they see this flow of regenerative work happening. They're going to gain confidence in the future of the community, which
mm,
means that people are going to be attracted to living there. Investors are going to be attracted to investing there. Employers are going to be attracted to putting their companies there.
yeah.
So that's the key. That's the most important single outcome, is increasing confidence in the future of a place.
Yes, yes, increasing confidence. So for someone out there, for example, as a closing remark, who is giving up on life or giving up on the future, what are some good reasons to be optimistic about the future of oneself, about the future of this planet, about the future of the economy or the climate?
Well, you can look at the numbers. The fact is that there's between $2 and $3 trillion worth of restorative development happening all over the planet right now.
Mm,
So the trouble is that nobody's really measuring it properly. The governments are still using accounting methods from a century ago,
mm,
where all they're really measuring is new development, sprawl, and resource extraction, or
mm,
they're measuring maintenance and conservation.
mm,
So those are just the first two parts of the life cycle. The
yeah.
last part of the life cycle, all that stuff that starts with RE,
Mm,
redevelopment, revitalization, regeneration, remediation, reuse, all that stuff is not measured. You don't see government reports on the restoration and revitalization
mm,
that's happened. So it's hard for people to be optimistic when all they see is the bad news about sprawl and extraction
mm.
and the cost of maintenance, and they're not seeing all the growth in restoration. So the best way to overcome that is get involved in it yourself.
Yeah. Oh, and that way, once you're active in a community that is, regenerating the environment or revitalizing the planet, then you become optimistic about the future yourself.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
It's like Gandhi said, be the future you want to have.
Be the future you want to have. That's a wonderful closing remark for this episode. That's awesome. So for anyone out there who wants to work with you, for example, to get some economic advice or to know how he or she could, help in making this planet a better place to live or to ensure that the planet is revitalized, how can they reach out to you? I'm going to place your website in the show notes already, but are there other means to reach out to you in order to work with you?
Yeah, I mean, checking out the websites is the best first thing, so you can understand exactly what I can offer. But if somebody wants to email me, I'm at storm@reconomics.org.
Oh, stomach recommends. Yes, awesome. That's great. I know I was going through your website already, and I was saying like you have a lot of keynotes that you've done already. You've traveled around the world, worked with the U.S. State Departments for sustainability training for public leaders of dozens of countries, and a lot of awesome work you've done in the sustainability department and revitalization. And I really find this awesome, and I thank you for everything you are doing for this planet. It's awesome. Thank you so much for being a
Thank
part
you
of
for your thank you.
yeah. Thank you so much for being a part of this episode today. I really appreciate everything I'm going to learn from you about regeneration, revitalization, everything with RE is very important. And we have to ensure that we not only try to you know ensure that this planet is ensure that the planet is not being destroyed, but ensure that we also undo the past damages we've done to the
Yep.
planet already. Thank you so
Yep.
much.
I enjoyed it. Thank you. Good job, Toby.
Thank you so much.